This is Coach Jimmie G Jr. from the Legacy in Leadership podcast. It's important to include strong personality types within your inner circle, but only if those strengths are positive ones. In this episode, Devon and I are going to go over just a few negative personality traits that you'd rather avoid having close to you in any way possible. So stay tuned. Right about now, you are listening to the Legacy in Leadership podcast, a show where we discuss living as a leader worth following, leading others to do the same, and in doing so, leaving a legacy for future generations. My name is Jimmy Gonzalez Jr., a learning and development professional and leadership coach, sitting down with my co-host, Anthony Devon Watts Jr., an expert contact center leader that has effectively led and developed dynamic teams with high motivation. Together, we have over 30 years experience in the corporate game. Join us as we discuss our growth as leaders, share the lessons we've learned, and interview others to see how their leadership style was shaped as they were mentored by adversity. Welcome back, Legacy Leaders, to the Legacy in Leadership podcast presented to you by the Legacy Leadership Learning Group. Remember, as you just heard in the intro, this is a show where we teach you really what it takes to live as a leader worth following, how to develop your team and others to do the same, and in doing so, leave a legacy for generations to come. I am one of your co-hosts, Coach Jimmie G Jr., along with my homeboy, Devon Watts.
You.
How you doing?
How's it going, leaders? I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. In good spirits. For those that are wondering why there may have been a little bit of hiatus in some of the episodes, because we've been on a rigorous Wednesday schedule.
Yes.
Your boy ended up finding his way to Boston, and that kind of threw us off. I ate my way through Boston, and then I needed to recover after eating my way through Boston. But now I'm back. We back. And we're
stronger
excited,
than
man,
ever.
Stronger than ever. And excited, man. Excited to deliver this content and connect with a lot of our entrepreneurs out there. Especially on today's topic. I think it's timely, it's appropriate, it's real. And then also, really excited about what we have slated for our next cold brew and convo segment. Where we do a Q1 review, right? So entrepreneurs, y'all should be familiar with this, and if not, then you're going to hear our mouth about it in cold brews, so make sure you listen so we can give you the tips on how to do this. But, as you've laid out your game plan at the beginning of the year, right, you always got to come back every single quarter and reassess, like, how do we perform? Like, are we heading in the right direction? Is our game plan working, right? Them boys is back with some more sports analogies, right? I remember after every single quarter, coach pulling us to the side. All right, what worked from our game plan, what didn't, what we got to abandon, what are they doing differently than what we expected? And so you should be taking stock of that. And Jimmy and I are actually going to be taking stock of that for the Legacy Leadership Learning Group and the Legacy and Leadership podcast, and sharing that with you all, in our next cold brew and convo segment,
which we've been focusing on mainly in our Facebook community, but we're moving, y'all. We're going to hashtag keep that same energy, but we are moving, not to Clubhouse. Shout out to Clubhouse. I'm not on there. Some of our listeners and viewers might be. Nothing wrong with that. But we know that we have a budding community within YouTube and on Podbeam, and just within the podcast community itself. So we will be going live on Podbeam for our next cold brew and convos, and for the near future, continuing to roll like that. So speaking of which, if you are new or a loyal listener, and please feel free to go ahead and rate and review this podcast. We would definitely appreciate that very much. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we'd love for you to like the video and subscribe to our channel. And then share with another leader, another entree leader that you know can benefit from this information. I was laughing because, like, as I'm editing the videos and I'm watching you, like, there's times where you're like pointing and doing all of these different things, and it's not always on, and then I have to like try to find the right overlay and put it on the right time, and it's just, I just sit there laughing. I'm editing the video. It's funny. Exactly.
I just point to random locations on the screen and just hopefully y'all find it. It's not that hard.
For our listeners, you won't be able to obviously see that. If you want the visual, check us out on the YouTube channel, Legacy and Leadership Podcast. You will not be disappointed. But again, we thank you very much, gratefully, sincerely for listening. And we've just been picking up so many new followers, again, specifically on Podbeam. Shout out to Podbeam as well for showing us some love. And we just want to give that love back. So in doing so, we're going to be talking specifically about a topic and your inner circle. If you've been listening to our podcast, if you've gone back and listened to season 1, especially episodes 1, 2, and 3, you learn a little bit more insight into Devon and myself and just our relationship. And we've been friends, brothers in Christ for a long time now. And definitely he is one of those individuals. Obviously, he's in my inner circle, but that circle's small. And we've been having some conversations recently because of conversations and things that have transpired on the Joe Budden podcast, which I listen to. I think you're more of a fan than I am. Not that I don't like it, but I don't watch it as much as you do. But it's been interesting to see those dynamics in how him and his co-hosts, things that they're going through. If you want to learn more about it, I'm sure you can find YouTube videos or some articles on it. But it just got us to thinking about the topic of friendship and business and how that mix and you know, and what do you do? How do you make those decisions? And, you know, what do you look to focus on, and what do you value most when you're making that decision to go into business with a friend and a best friend? Because the friendship is more important than anything else, right? So you have to think about those things. And, you know, again, that has sparked many conversations between us over the last couple of weeks. And also driving us, you know, because we know our vision and we know the things that we're trying to accomplish as individuals, as a team, and for our families, and the legacy that we're leaving behind. And that continues, that's our why. And that continues to drive us forward to hopefully provide you guys with some just fire content and advice and tips and strategies that are going to help you as an entree leader to, again, to really live as a leader worth following, so that you can then build a team, build a business, scale that, and really not just leave a legacy for yourself, but of course for the loved ones that you have in your life and your community as well. So, so all of those things, you know, again, got us really thinking about your inner circle. And in this particular episode, we're getting to that point. We want to focus on 7 personality types that you should really be aware of that could possibly be within your inner circle. That can be a hindrance to that. That could, you know, really, because of these different types of personalities, can hinder your growth and your potential if you're allowing people with these type of personalities to really be close and, again, be within that inner circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it just seemed timely given the conversations we've been having and the fact that we've been connecting a lot with entrepreneurs out there. There's entre leaders out there, and you know, as I'm watching how folks are moving, and a lot of folks, I'm super excited to see this. A lot of folks are taking that leap into ownership and trying to build something, and you know, building their business, you know, becoming content creators and building that out, all that stuff. And they're often doing it with friends, right? With friends. I even think about, like, ourselves aside, the missus, you know, they've launched a company I've mentioned before, and, you know, and Blades & Co. Going strong, really proud of what she's been able to build with her friend Alyssa. But again, these are childhood friends, right, that have said, hey, we're going to jump into this business world together, right? We're going to build something together. And it's natural to understand why you would want to, because there's a certain level of familiarity, a certain level of comfort, of desire to want to see your team and people that you truly care for win, right? But there's also additional complexities, challenges, and things to navigate and to think about as you make those decisions, because you know, every relationship has its own unique dynamic, and the dynamic of your relationship may be best served as solely a friendship, right? And not necessarily also a partnership. And maybe some relationships are built for friendship, the balance of friendship and partnership. And so I think one of the most important decisions that you can make as an entrepreneur is the decision around who is on that journey for you when you're building your team. And it starts here with first being able to discern these different personality types that may exist within your inner circle that you would, likely look to first to try and build out something. And so, I'm excited to be able to break this down and then continue this theme over these next couple of episodes as we really talk to our entrepreneurs, our budding entrepreneurs, our entre leaders out there, and help you refine your decision-making skill in this area specifically.
Yeah, for sure. So it's important for our listeners and our viewers out there to include strong personality types within your inner circle, but making sure that those strengths are positive ones, right? Negativity, as I said earlier, it can really ruin your inner circle and render, what should be support and help, it could really render that useless to you and especially to your growth. So again, we're going to really just jump into a few different negative personality traits that you really should be looking to avoid and making sure that you're doing your best to stay away from, and how you can recognize those things along the way. So we're going to jump into the first one, and as entrepreneurs, even as an individual, we're never necessarily short on ego, and especially people who want to excel and succeed in life and stuff like that. So again, it's not a bad thing, but there's always that double-edged sword, right? So the ego, this type of person with an ego, they just love to spout their information and their point of view, right? But it's not really with the goal of trying to help people. Like, they just want to talk because they love hearing their voice, and they want to make sure that other people hear their voice and hear their opinions, even if you didn't even really ask their opinion. Again, they just love to hear themselves talk, and they really have unique ideas, but a lot of it is just kind of unfounded, not necessarily facts or data behind it. They just like to yell. I think about close friends in high school, and like we would get into conversations and then arguments about sports and stuff like that, and then it's just like the loudest person kind of wins, and it's just like, you know what, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with
I know you've seen Brandon, the meme going around with Brandon Marshall recently.
No.
All right, so because it just ties into your point like perfectly, right? So basically, that they have that podcast where some of the former football players, Brandon Marshall, Ocho Cinco, Brandon,
yes,
I think it's Brandon Spikes, but they get together and they talk through different sports concepts. They're interviewing folks for their podcast. Well, they started getting the subject of contracts and the disparity of contracts between NBA and the NFL. Okay. And Brandon Marshall was passionate that his understanding is that NBA contracts are not fully guaranteed, which is not true. They are fully guaranteed. But, like, his response to it when they were challenging him on that, like, man, that's not the case. Like, they are fully – he's like, bro, like, matter of fact, it's going to be the picture. I'm going to use his face as the picture for this episode cover. Because it's just, like, him yelling, like, it is! Like, veins popping out, like, just the loudest person in the room. And so they went viral, and people took that image of him yelling unnecessarily, and then one of the NBA players actually responded to it like, "You're completely wrong, bruh," because the contracts are 100% guaranteed, right? So back to your point, that person that's rooted in like ego just wants to be the loudest person in the room. Maybe their opinion is not even rooted in facts. They're passing on secondhand information that they've heard and they didn't even fully understand or digest. Mm-hmm. They just want to be in the mix to be in the mix, right? It actually makes me think about, because again, going back to meme culture and stuff like that, like when news of the stimulus started coming around, and all of these folks that were talking about, see, now what y'all need to do is you need to take that 600 start an LLC. Individuals who are not tax professionals, individuals who have not even taken like started one business in their mind. They haven't even visited LegalZoom.com, right?
Yeah.
But they want to sit here and preach to you around like how you really should be doing it. And so our advice for entrepreneurs is to be wary of individuals like that have never tried to build something themselves, have never put their own skin in the game, have never done their own diligence. They've never even shown a desire to educate themselves in some of these areas, yet they expound ideas as if they have expertise in this area, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about, hey, I want to build I want to build a online retail business, an e-commerce business. I want to build a cleaning business. I want to build a consulting business. And they come in having never done any of those things. Like, well, what you really need to do, because they say less than half of the businesses are actually successful. And so really you should take that, bruh. You're just trying to be in the conversation to be in the conversation, right? So you got to guard yourself from that. So, man, the personality type that is the ego is definitely one of the more dangerous ones to have in your inner circle if they exist. You just got to have a keen eye for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one, I'll let you jump on this one, which to a certain extent, could be a positive. We mentioned in our last conversation, our love language is words of affirmation, right? So we enjoy when people are telling us good things. And again, showing words of or expressing words of affirmation. So the second personality type, though, is like the fanboy or fangirl. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the fanboy or fangirl, it can be comforting in moments, right? To kind of get that affirmation or that validation or that, to have your own cheerleading squad. But these folks, very rarely do they offer true value to you as a leader or an entrepreneur if you're really trying to get better, right? If you're really trying to get better. Because one of the things that's always rung true with me, one of the things that I see as a consistent theme across every single meaningful relationship that I have that's in my inner circle is accountability exists, right? And for the fangirl, the fanboy, there is no accountability because you can do no wrong. So to this person, you are perfect, right? You never make mistakes. You've never made a bad decision as an entrepreneur or business owner. Every idea you have is brilliant, no matter what it is. And you have to temper that with the fact that we all know as leaders that we aren't perfect. Actually, that's one of the strengths of leaders, and when you can acknowledge openly and come to grips with and identify areas that are opportunities for you so that you can focus on ways to improve or build a team that can help you improve. And unbeknownst to a lot of us, that fanboy or fangirl may actually have some ulterior motives. What we mean by that is they may just want to be close to success, or what they feel success is, right? They may just want to be in the mix. They may be supporting you in hopes of playing the long game to say, well, look, if I'm here long enough and I keep supporting them and they end up popping and they win, right, they're going to bring me along too.
I'm winning too, yeah.
I'm winning too, right? So I don't have to do work. I just got to be in the cheerleading section, though. Remember, I was one of the first people that was always here, right? And again, you have to really, this is where as a leader, you have to really be honest with yourself is, if it sounds too good to be true, the things they're saying, the nature of the relationship, then it usually is. And that doesn't just apply to business opportunities, but that applies to people too, right? That applies to people too. And so you really have to keep a discerning eye out for that. And make sure that you're not surrounding yourself with people that are just going to continue to cheer you on, even when maybe your idea is not perfect or you're in the wrong. Because again, as entrepreneurs, leaders, as leaders, we know it is actually in our mistakes that most of our growth occurs. And so if you're walking around thinking that you're perfect, I guarantee you that you are a terrible leader. Right? You are missing the mark as a leader if you think that you can do no wrong.
Yeah, and if you also have to take a look at yourself. If you're the type of person that you truly enjoy that and like you want nothing but people who always are telling you that you're doing a great job and kind of yes men or yes women, it's just not a good place to be in. You need folks that are going to tell you, nah, the whole thing about the emperor's robe, right? Like, no, like you're naked right now. Like it's not good. You have some things you need to work on. So think about that again when you think about those type of personalities. So again, 7 personality types that you should be very mindful of and staying away from when you're talking about who should truly be in your inner circle. So we just broke down to number 3. And we definitely, especially growing up in call center environment, you see a lot of this, just gossip. And the gossiper, the person who they always seem to know what's going on with everybody. They have the dirt on everybody. Not only do they have it, but they love to talk about it and they love to share it and they want to make sure that you know what they know. don't be fooled. If they're talking about other people, they're talking about you too. And they may be acting like they're coming to you with some secret information and even trying to make it seem like it's to your benefit for you to know these things. But those little whispers in the ear, again, if they're doing it to other people, best believe they are doing it to you as well. So just like, don't make that mistake. Indulging in gossip, which is really their favorite pastime. Don't make that your favorite pastime. Stay away from that. And just be real with people. Like, that's, I don't want to hear that. If you have information and that is something that you want to talk about, that's not the type of thing that I want to hear. So either let's talk about something else, change the subject, or you can find someplace else to go have that conversation. But again, just don't make that mistake of falling into that whole trap of gossip, because nobody really wants to hear about that and be around people that's where they're coming from. Even, again, the podcast that kind of generated some of these conversations with us, excuse me. I also watch Nikki and Moose. They have their own podcast as well, and they had an episode about Joe Budden and Maul and that whole situation. But she was very blunt in saying, like, I'm not doing this to gossip, but like, it's a very interesting topic, and I want us to be able to really talk about it and learn from it, especially because her and Moose are in that same situation. Like, they're very good friends, and it really is a very thought-provoking conversation for individuals who are close friends, best friends, and have literally gotten into business and started a business together. But again, nobody likes to gossip, so just stay away from those individuals and make sure that you don't find yourself the topic of conversations.
Absolutely. I was always told, when it comes to gossips, because you're not going to be able to avoid these individuals and the spaces you occupy, but it doesn't mean they have to be a part of your inner circle. So I was always told you got to feed them with a long spoon, and you can't feed somebody in your inner circle with a long spoon, right? Definitely.
Well said.
Yeah, definitely you got to avoid them. All right, so we've already talked about the gossip. So the next personality type that you have to be aware of, potentially in your inner circle, right, is the narcissist. Right, so what do we mean by the narcissist, and how does this differ from the ego? Well, the narcissist is solely focused on how others can benefit them. That's it. This is a one-sided relationship, right? I'm trying to get as much as I possibly can. I expect you to show up for me, right? I need you to help me out. I need your insights, but I'm not going to show up for you. I'm not there to support. I lack consistency or empathy and concern about what you're dealing with. And so what you'll notice with these personality types is that they will work to manipulate you in order to get what they want out of the relationship. And when they don't get what they want out of the relationship, they turn around and they blame you. And try to paint you as the individual that fell short or violated some type of trust, even though their actions make it clear as day whose interests they're really looking out for, right? They'll create only feelings of inadequacy if they don't get what they want, and guilt within you. And so these are individuals that you have to look out for ASAP. Like, the only time that they are interested in, being in the cheering section and supporting you is if they can benefit from it somehow, or it helps feed what they're working towards. And if they get nothing out of it, they will very quickly make you feel like it was your fault, one of the worst decisions you ever made, and how horrible of a friend you are. And so those type of manipulative individuals, again, no good can come from having that on the team either.
Yeah, you just said it twice, manipulate. They're manipulators. And I haven't met one person, like, when you really look at the definition and break that down, like, no, this person is a true narcissist. That was not just a liar. Because, again, it's all about them. And if they have to do things and say things to prop themselves up or to get whatever it is that they want, they will definitely do that. So, yeah, just make sure that you get rid of that individual as quickly as possible, because it will definitely not serve you, your business, your passions, your dreams, and the community and the people that you're trying to serve.
Yeah, man. It's sad, too, man, because, I'm just thinking about personal experiences, and, you see it, when people come around like clockwork, right? It's like, man, you were ghost for a minute. Like, even simple stuff, you know what I mean? Like, you guys may follow each other on social media or something like that, and very rarely do they interact with, and again, this is not the measure of friendships, but I'm giving an example here, but very rarely do they interact with like your posts or your stories or something like that. But you can set your clock to it that every single time they react to a story, a question of, hey, can you help me out, is coming right after. Like, I have several individuals that I've had interactions with that I've just been like, okay, I see what time you're on. Or, again, unfortunately, I even found myself in a position where, I had a friend at the time that was in need, and, I loaned them some money. And again, a general rule of mine is that, I don't loan out money that I'm, one, not in a position to never recover, right? Because I'm never taking money out of my own family's mouth, and that, two, I don't feel confident and clear about my expectations and being able to get back. And so I found myself in this position where they were dealing with XYZ, really needed to get their vehicle fixed in order for the family to be taken care of. All right, no worries. Hey, this is I can bless you. This is what I need. Like, I just need communication. I need this. How long do you need before you can pay me back? Okay, I'm fine. All that stuff, right? Time comes to pay to make good on your word as a man. You're nowhere to be found. Hard to get in contact with you. What's going on? I have to pester you. I have to follow up. I have to, hey, what's going on? Are you good? Are you good? Finally, I get reimbursed for what I decided to give. Time goes by, another issue comes up. You've already shown me, right, how I can expect this to play out when it comes, time to ask for, being blessed and just, giving. So when you fix your mouth to ask again, and I use past data, right, I'm a very data-driven individual. I use past data and trends to help make me, formulate my thoughts on a future outcome and what decision I want to make. And I tell you no. And then it's, man, you's never there for me. How you gonna act like the yes, the narcissist. You finally reared your head. Thank you. Right? Like, how could you do that? You know what I'm dealing with. Hey, you're absolutely right. I do know what you're dealing with. I also understand that you made some decisions that put you in that position where you're having to deal with what you're dealing with. I already extended my hand a while ago to bless you when you were in need. And you showed me how you valued our relationship, right? And so I'm using that information to make different decisions. And my pops always told me, especially when it comes to, this topic specifically, you know what I mean? Like, your situation or your emergency does not facilitate my guilt or necessitate me to be guilted into giving up my hard-earned money, right? Like, I can care for you, I can feel for you, I can want to bless you, I can do all of those things, but I also have to make sure that I'm taking care of the folks that I'm responsible for, right? And so, again, this one just like hits home just a little bit, because I'm like, man, I didn't have a name for it then. I peeped it and then proceeded to feed them with a long spoon until, we no longer had a relationship, right? Because I was no longer beneficial to that individual, right? That just shows you the value of the relationship. When I was not willing to give, right? But hey, I'm here to talk, but I'm not going to give anything out of my own pocket, my own mouth. I no longer became value added to the relationship. It just played out the way it played out. So now I know that person was a narcissist.
Yeah. And, this is all a learning process too, depending on where you're at and where you're at in your journey. And you may have come across personalities like this. Maybe, thankfully, you haven't necessarily come across these type of personalities, but that's exactly why we're trying to point these things out and these characteristics and some things for you to look for. So you can start to pinpoint that. And again, I love that. Feed them with a long spoon. We'll talk in another session about really how do you into more detail about how do you actually get somebody out of your inner circle and kind of get rid of that person. Not in a mean way, of course, but again, you have to recognize where you're at and how this person and this personality type is negatively affecting you. So we're going to get into the next one, which is the moaner. They just moan and groan all the time. And no matter how many ideas you come up with, positive thoughts you come up with, positive vibes, they're always going to just shoot holes in everything you come up with. Now, there's nothing wrong with having somebody on your side that definitely helps you to see, especially when you're a visionary and you're super positive and you're always seeing these great things that you want to do. There's nothing wrong with having somebody on your team and in your inner circle that's going to be able to show you where some of the faults are or cracks and how you can potentially do things better, or just possible obstacles and challenges you may be confronted with as you're looking to go down that path. But they're doing so because they're trying to help you and they want to see you succeed, as opposed to like, nah, that ain't going to work. Nah, that's not going to work. And just consistently, pointing out just different barriers to your own success. And it could be because maybe they're jealous. They don't have that same drive or will, or they're not as risk adverse as you are. So anytime you come up with these different ideas, to them, it's like, you got to move mountains in order to make that happen, when that, might not necessarily be the case. Yeah, you're going to have to put in some work. You're going to have to do some things. Again, you might have to take some calculated risk in order to achieve that goal and see the success that you're trying to obtain. But it's possible, especially when you're looking at other people in the sense of, that it's possible because this person has done it, that person has done it, this person has done it. There's blueprints out there. And as long as I glean from those other people and put my own spin, my own flavor, my own person into it, then yeah, there's no reason why I should not be successful. So help me, give me ideas, give me some thoughts, whatever I had not thought about that I need to think about, but don't just always come as the moaner and groaner and always pointing out things that won't work or barriers to the success. But again, not always come up with problems, but you're not going to provide any type of solution.
Yeah, man, that's just that's a damper on creativity. That's just it's and to your point, like you do need that balanced perspective. Like when you're trying to build out the ideal team, you do need that balanced perspective that's going to be rooted in maybe some of the unanticipated pitfalls and things that you have to account for to figure out, like, okay, this is things you'll have to solve for in order to get there, right? In order to bring that to fruition. Like, that's fine. You need that type of feedback. Like, hey, well, you got to think about this. You got to think about this. You're going to have to solve for these things. I've seen it solved this way. You may want to figure out what works for you. That's not a moaner, right? Mm-hmm. A moaner is an individual who's just like, they're only rooted in like, there's no way that can work. Right, it's just not going to work. Like, no, everybody's been trying to do that. Why are you going to try and do that? Right? Like, what makes you think that you could be you can actually be successful? Right? Like, those type of individuals that just always, like you said, find fault in a plan with no intention at all of helping you think through or being a safe space to think through meaningfully. Right, think through meaningfully, like how to actually solve for it and close that gap. And so yeah, man, just those type of individuals are definitely like a nah for me. You're just not going to be in my circle or in my presence for long. And this next type of individual also falls into that bucket, and that is the vampire. And when we talk about the vampire is basically, they're excellent at like sucking the very life out of each and every positive idea that you have, right? And after you get finished, like breaking it down or expressing yourself or kind of sharing your ideas, and then spending time trying to defend it and talk through it and dealing with their presence, like they actually end up like draining you of your own positive energy, right? And you end up leaving the interaction like, man, what hit me? Like, I was so excited. I was so amped up. I was so geared up for this idea, this thought, what I want to do, right? I have this momentum. I have this energy. Like, I almost think of the vampire as like, you got this momentum, like I'm heading out the gate. You know, I got gas pedal to the floor, and they pulled the emergency brake. Yeah, they're the folks that's pulling the emergency brake, and just like draining the momentum and stopping the flow, right? And so these are definitely individuals that you just got to be mindful of, and really what I often find is that where they drain you the most is emotionally. Like they can just be emotional drains, right? And it can take on a couple different forms. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's solely them shooting holes in the positive ideas you have. Right, because it may not necessarily be as direct as that, right? Like, hey, I want to do this with my business, and I'm saying like, well, there's no you're going to try and do that in this economy, in this market, and you got all this. It may not be direct as that. It could be that, the way they drain your positivity, your energy, is by not giving you a space to express yourself and trying to change the conversation towards their troubles. Right. So if I'm approaching you to talk, hey, I really want to, get your perspective, your ear on this. Like I'm trying to build out this idea. I really think I'm onto something here. I think that this could be next for me. And they steer the conversation in the direction of like their own personal troubles. Like, yeah. I hear you. But man, I've been so drained lately, man. I went to the doctor and, and now I don't know how I'm going to pay rent, and I got to deal with this. And they keep steering the conversation towards their troubles. Right. And not giving you space to be able to express yourself and really show genuine concern about what's going on with you. Again, these individuals are vampires and just draining you of your momentum, draining you of your positivity, draining you of your drive. And so you can't succumb to it. You got to avoid the leeches.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy. Like, definitely observe how you feel. After visiting with somebody who may have this type of personality, like if, like Devon mentioned, if you're just emotionally exhausted, you just know, as opposed to, I finally got a chance to face-to-face meet Pastor Shav, right? And he was our first guest on Mentored by Adversity in the first season. And like those are the type of conversations that you leave, like you feel energized, right? And you feel it's just a different energy that you have, where you know that you're in a conversation with somebody where the two of you have literally just elevated each other's energy and spirit. And if you know that feeling, then you should definitely be able to observe the opposite, where it's like, man, why am I feeling so drained? Well, it's because literally that person was like just sucking the energy out of you. So just be observant to those things and definitely, start to navigate and make your decisions accordingly.
Yeah, well said, man. I like that actually. That's a really good point. Like if you're discerning enough or, tapped in enough to be able to like pick up on the vibrations, kind of the vibes of when energy is resonating and you feel like, man, we're feeding off of each other, right? Like this is a productive conversation. And even from what I know about, you chopping it up with Shav, right? It wasn't a cheerleader fest. It was literally, you talking about the things that you guys have accomplished, where you guys feel like we're falling short maybe of some of our goals, and then trying to figure out how to improve. But because it's so constructive, the fact that it's just constructive and it's supportive, and you have a place to use somebody as a sounding board and get a different perspective, like that makes you energized. Like, man, I have the energy I need to go and fix these things or to address these things, or I feel confident that, I do, like that is an issue and I need to fix it, right? So if you can recognize that, you absolutely have to be able to recognize when it just feels like a one-sided conversation, like you're a battery to this person and they're just taking you for everything you got. And then you leave the interaction just like, man, I was, after this, I had planned to go to the gym. I don't even want to go to the gym no more. Yeah, after this, I had planned to go do some work. I don't even want to do no work no more. Like after this, I had planned to, but I don't want to do that anymore, right? Those are the signs that you have to be able to look out for. So I love the fact that you brought up that point. That's a really good way, a simple way to be able to start to identify those folks that may exist in your inner circle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've just broken down 6 personality types again that you should be aware of having in your inner circle. Last but not least, the person who is just super needy. Like they just needy. They need stuff. They need your attention. If they don't get your attention, if they don't get what they're looking for, like, then they start to whine, probably start to moan. Sure, some of these personalities you might find definitely more than one in a particular individual. But like, it's like they need your approval for stuff, and that need, it becomes exhausting. It becomes, again, draining as well, because they just want your attention, and you have to be thoughtful of the times where you can provide attention. If this is somebody who this could be a close friend, it could be even a family member, but somebody who you love, that you want to be able to provide that attention, but it's important to set up barriers, and I don't know, barrier is not the right word. Just making sure that there's an understanding of, if there's something that you need and there's something that you need to talk about, like, these are going to be the best times, the best moments to be able to go through that and have those conversations. But if they're all about themselves, and again, just always seeking your attention, but not really keeping you in mind and what you have going on and things that you're trying to accomplish and things that you're trying to do, definitely be mindful of that person, because again, it can just be a hindrance, as we said at the beginning, to your growth and your success and the things that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that you called out, like, some of these personality types can exist in multiple, like, or one individual can have multiple, of these personality types, or a combination of these, right? You can have somebody who's the needy, and then also the vampire, on top of that too, right? But yeah, this is just somebody that, regardless of, what commitments that you may have or how transparent you may be about those commitments and being intentional about organizing, scheduling time, all that stuff, right? Like, it's still not enough. Like, they need to be plugged in, like, be damned. Like, I need attention from you all the time. What are you doing? Where are you at? Pay me attention. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation, right? And really, what I've come to find, especially in my inner circle, is like the healthy relationships, the ones that are worthy of being considered a part of that inner circle, are individuals that understand the value of you having the space you need in order to do what you need to do, and then also the value of, when you guys are together and the time is spent together, being present and plugged in, right? It's a balance of both, right? Like, being able to plug in when you have the time together, and then also saying, I can't monopolize your time because I know that you have these goals, aspirations, these things that you're working towards, and I want to make sure that there's room for that. I want to make sure that there's room for you to be on top of your fitness, to be on top of your mental health, to be on top of your spirituality, to be on top of your work commitments, to be on top of your relationships with other individuals, to be on top of building your business, and making sure that when it comes time for us, that we are present in the moment and on top of building this relationship together. So somebody who is needy like that has no interest or concern about the other components, the other facets that may feed you. And I think you'll ultimately find, especially for a couple of these personalities, they tend to be a huge drain because they prevent you from being able to properly sharpen your saw, which y'all know we are very passionate about that. We've talked about it quite a bit on a few episodes, and it's because it always comes back to that. Like, in order to be the best caliber leader possible, you have to be whole. You have to be sharp. You have to be delivering in all areas and aspects of your life. There has to be balance there, and if it's not, you're going to fall short. You're not going to put your best product out there for people that depend on you, right? And so you just got to be mindful of that. I see a lot of young, I would say, younger folks, young leaders, people that are still maturing. I won't even put an age on it, but just folks that are early in their maturation process that falsely equate needing, like somebody being needy, with it being a meaningful relationship, right? And that's the furthest thing from the truth, right? That's the furthest thing from the truth. The most valuable relationships are ones where it's not built on a need, right? Like, I need something from you, right? And I'm demanding attention, but it's built on a wanting, a desire to be there and to choose you and choose this relationship and choose this friendship and to nurture this friendship for no other reason other than I care for you. Like, we built a relationship where I care for you. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people have situations where, things have happened to them and whether it's how they were raised or, just situations coming up, and yeah, they fall victim to feeling like they need somebody. And then sometimes we may find ourselves where we love or appreciate like fixing things and helping people so much that it's easy for people who are needy to kind of gravitate towards us, and then for us to kind of get suckered in to trying to provide and do everything that we can for this person, not realizing the negative effects it's truly having on you. The word I was thinking about earlier was boundaries, not barriers, but boundaries. And just, in that maturation process, learning to create boundaries with these different individuals. And again, I'll say it again because I love what you said. It is learning how to feed people with a longer spoon, right? And especially if this is somebody that you care about, is, how do I still not throw them out of my life, but still keep them in my life, but also realize that there has to be a certain distance because of that individual. And so hopefully maybe they continue to grow and mature and those things change about themselves. I think it's also important, getting back to the example that you gave earlier about the situation, somebody, needing to have situations and they needed to borrow money. Everybody, and this is probably for some of the younger folks that might be listening to our podcast or watching us on YouTube, everybody's not going to be in your life like forever. There's people that come in your life for seasons, and that is okay. That is okay. And sometimes they may come back around, and that's okay too. And they may come back around where you've grown and you've matured in a way that, I can handle and navigate and deal with this situation and that personality type a little bit better, or they've matured. Hopefully both of you have matured, and now the friendship is just even different. It's much more valuable, and it probably will never be the same, which is not a bad thing, but just recognizing that there's going to be people in your life that, again, they might be there now, but they're probably not going to be there forever. You know what I mean? And realizing, again, when you're looking at these personality types that can even be family and fall into some of these, right? And it's family. Like, how you can't get rid of your family. Your family is your family. But it's also knowing that, I still need to have those boundaries and set a particular distance, because I know that with the lane that I'm in, the things that I'm trying to do, the path that I'm trying to follow, that God is leading me, it's just not the same. It's just not the same. And in order for me to stay obedient to that and to do everything I can to be in line with Him and honor Him with the steps that I'm taking, sometimes you got to cut people off. Yep. Not even just feed them with a long spoon, but cut them off. And that's just part of life. And we said it, in some of the conversations we were having before we hit record. That is also a part of being a leader. It's being able to discern those situations and make the tough decisions that the other people are not necessarily able to make. They're not built for those type of decisions. And sometimes you have to be the one in the relationship to say, you know what, this is kind of where we're at right now. And for you and for myself, like, we just don't necessarily see it benefiting each other. You know what I mean? And not healthy. And emotionally healthy, mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, sometimes even physically healthy. If the way they eat or some of the things that they do, all of those things can affect you. And it's okay. And it's a sign of maturity to be able to understand that and communicate that. And again, set the proper boundaries so that even if you still have them in your life, but it's not causing a negative impact on you, the things that you're trying to do, your family, your goals, and the things that you're trying to be a good steward of.
Yeah, man. No, I love that. It reminds me of the saying that everybody that came with you won't go with you. Right?
Absolutely.
Everybody that came with you won't go with you. And so, yeah, I think it's perfect, man. Like, I have nothing to add. I think that's a beautiful message for our listeners.
Yeah, so we hope that you found value, from, again, listening to these 7 personality types that you should really be aware of. If they're in your inner circle, learn how to navigate, deal, feed them with that longer spoon, or even get rid of them. And we'll be talking about that in another conversation coming up. But the ego, the fanboy or fangirl, the gossiper, the narcissist that is just completely all into themselves and think about nothing else but themselves. Love themselves so much they even talk about themselves in third person. Like, it's just crazy. The moaner, I think of like Eeyore. When I think about the moaner, just woe is me. Everything is always sad and down. And then the vampire is just trying to suck the life out of you. You don't even know it's happening until after the fact, and you just feel drained. And then the person who's just way too needy for what you're able to give. Be mindful of those 7 personality types. Again, make the right decisions in navigating those relationships, because it is about, again, you putting yourself in the best possible place to have the right type of support that's going to encourage, nurture, hold you accountable, and give you the things that you don't necessarily need, but are going to be helpful for you to continue to grow as a person, as an individual, and again, achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. So definitely, again, stay with us as we continue to move on over the next couple of weeks, because this is really going to be the series. If you've been rocking with us for some time, you know that we typically really like to dive into a topic, not just for one episode, but really go through a series in a particular month. So we just, again, went down to 7 personality types. The next episode is going to be why you should keep your inner circle small. Everybody can't ride with you. Everybody don't share the same vision. God gave that vision, that passion to you. He didn't give it to them. So there's reasons why you should keep that circle small. We're going to be talking about that as well. So if you found value from this conversation in this podcast episode, again, please feel free to like and give the podcast episode a review. If you're one of our viewers on YouTube, definitely like it. Leave a comment. We love to interact. Hey, your boys, we done hit 1,000 subs on YouTube. So we have the community aspect on the YouTube channel as well, Legacy and Leadership Podcast. If you have not, if you're one of our listeners and you're on YouTube as well, check us out there, subscribe as well, but we're definitely looking to focus again on our Podbeam and YouTube community for the foreseeable future, but definitely we want to show you guys love because we appreciate the love that we've been getting since the podcast started, and especially over the last 3 or 4 months as well. So until next time, again, we thank you very much to our legacy leaders, entree leaders out there. We're focused on you, on serving you to the best of our abilities. Look for more to come. We appreciate you guys very much. And as always, God bless.
Stay encouraged.
Take care, y'all.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
You have just listened to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, hosted by Jimmy Gonzalez and Devon Watts. Thank you, and we hope that you live, lead, and leave a legacy worth remembering. Until next time.